of office. Welcome to this graduation, dear friends, family, and graduates, and current students, and all of you out there in the interwebs. We've made it for these four fascinatingly different and compatible individuals. And I am starting off the proceedings by welcoming you all and introducing our staff and faculty. I already showed you my emblem. I'm co-chair with Carla Kihlstedt, co-chairs of this program. And our core faculty present are Rick Bates, Don DeNicola, Michael Early from afar, Andy Jaffe from afar, Ravi Krishnaswamy from afar, John Fitzrogers also from afar, and here John Malia and Lisa Metzacapa. And we have the residency faculty, Trudy Chan, Rob Frankenberry, and Frank J. O'Terry. I also want to introduce the program staff and administration. First, above all, Carol Beatty, program director. Devin Barone, DVB assistant director. I want to thank Linda Urban, interim academic dean, and special thanks to sound recording team Justin Scheid and Tori Richards, and our graduate assistants Jenny Davis and Prakash Wright. And special thanks to the CalArts School of Music staff, without whom this would not be possible. Now I would like to welcome Lisa Metzacapa.
First, thank you for asking me to speak, guys. I've never done this before, but you gotta walk the walk, right? In preparing to address you all, I found myself reflecting on what it means to earn a graduate degree in music in 2025. In an age complicated by artificial intelligence, relentless conflict, brutal inequality, and seemingly insatiable greed, where so many issues, big and small, threaten to further alienate and isolate us from each other. These days, everyone is a maker, a creative, a content curator, and my favorite, a thought leader. I suspect the corporate world and the tech industry have been appropriating our language as artists for a while now, because they are aware of the power we hold in our practices and our ability to connect, move, and touch people's hearts. Even though we don't have a lot of clout in their exploitive systems, we're actually a force to be reckoned with, because we are and we offer something else. The more the rest of the world seems to sever itself or try to sever us from presence, from authentic creation, from deeply considered craft, from connecting to and depending on each other, we as music makers have a response and even an antidote. Yes, in our program, we get into the nitty-gritty, the specifics of writing with wrestling with notation software, learning orchestration and harmony, working in complex digital audio environments, learning to produce records, rehearse ensembles, and dialogue with the moving image. But also, there are other special things we practice and nurture here. When we all get together, and also in our meetings throughout the semester. And these things are more elusive and perhaps more easily taken for granted. I believe these are actually our superpowers that we've been developing together. And as you guys return to the world as graduates, I want to remind you of them. So as musicians and composers, we understand presence and offer it as a gift to our listeners and our collaborators. We know how to be truly in the moment. We cultivate patience and thoughtfulness and care. We balance discipline and rigor with flexibility and openness. We seek wonder and mystery. We pursue the unknown as a matter of course. We invite transformation and reinvention in our lives and our work. We value the outsider, and we respect the new idea that we don't quite get yet. We're curious. We appreciate and welcome a multiplicity of approaches and personalities. We can hang with ambiguity. We also allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to bury our egos and to fail sometimes. We bring joy. Musicians are also the best collaborators, and the values of mutual aid are actually in our DNA and everything that we do together. I've had the privilege of working closely with two of you as an advisor, but I've also experienced profound musical and personal growth and transformation in all of you and getting to know you. I think I can speak for all the faculty here when I say we are universally in awe. There have been times when each of you have surprised, challenged, thrilled, perplexed, and most of all, inspired us. In unique ways, you're each a complete artistic package, pursuing a clear vision and artistic sensibility, but also you're curious and open and porous, and you're seeking of new artistic truths. You walk your own path with honesty and with heart. I also want to recognize the very concrete sacrifices you've had to make to be a part of this program and to be sitting here right now. Balancing work and family and your health and relationships and finances, wrestling with your own demons to allow yourself to pursue your truest version of yourself. It's extraordinary. I was thinking of how we run our graduation ceremony. We conclude each graduating student testimonial by asking the student, so what are we going to listen to? So I was thinking about taking that question further. What or who are we going to listen to? Listening is attention. It's a sonic gaze. It's active. It's quietly transformative. It operates in 360 degrees and through multiple senses. Here we're kind of like monks or acolytes of this elevated human practice. It's lifelong. Listening is a form of devotion, a gesture of generosity, an act of love. We all know there are few feelings worse than feeling like someone's not listening to you, not hearing you. We have a choice of what and who deserves that or has earned that attention. Our world has figured out how to monetize attention, and the result has been that everyone is always distracted. I'm reminded of that part in Gabriel Garcia Marquez's novel, 100 Years of Solitude, when the entire town is collectively losing its memory, everyone at once. It feels like a version of that. But maybe we're the keepers of this holy practice. And as the ability to be still and to focus and to listen slips away from the population. Of course, the composer and philosopher Paulina Oliveros has a lot to say about listening. She called our project quantum listening, and I'm going to quote her. She says, "Quantum listening is listening to more than one reality simultaneously, listening for the least differences possible to perceive, perception at the edge of the new, jumping like an atom out of orbit to a new orbit, creating a new orbit. As an atom occupies both spaces at once, one listens in both places at once. Mothers do this. One focuses to a point and changes that point by listening. Quantum listening is listening in as many ways as possible simultaneously, changing and being changed by the listening." So I think listening is a gift that we possess and also a gift that we can give to the people in our lives and the people we encounter. And I encourage you guys to be generous with it. And even though so many things in our world seem really intractable right now, impossible, unsolvable, hopeless, I believe that the listening we develop through our love of music and sound has a role to play beyond the gig or the concert or our headphones. We care for you all very much. The world needs what you do. We're family, we're community, and we're forever connected. So knock 'em dead.
to chase after the moon, the way it runs from you, runs a bun in your left hand. 60 years and Lou's still waiting for his man. Always leaving, always here, ever further, ever near.
Bird bath in your mom's backyard, chills with chubby arms, rum and coke in your right hand. Take a drag and watch the water where it stands. Always follow, always chase, round the corner, round the base.
Of course, you'll never catch the moon. You let that comfort you. You left your gloves inside the ring. 40 years, the dust has just started settling. I felt my lungs fill up with rust. I gave my lover up. The tool and die is closing down. Got 30 days to find the last job left in town.
And now my favorite part, the graduating student portraits. John Malia will speak for Colin Hinton.
Hey, Colin. So, I met Colin on a speed date
And I thought I was doing great with that guy, but there's this other faculty member who's super charming that I just couldn't compete with, named Michael Early. So the two of them went off gallivanting together for an extended period of time. And then eventually he came around, and I had the great pleasure of spending a couple of semesters with him, which it really was a true pleasure, and I really value that time together, so thank you for that. But in that first meeting, when I saw the work that you brought in, it was, I was immediately impressed by it. I was like, wow, this guy is serious. I mean, it was super hyper-detailed music with all kinds of things going on that involved, tightly composed gestures and then responses that were maybe a little looser and invited some openness. And I was excited at the possibility of working with you, and I'm glad I got to do that. But in Colin's more recent music, especially the last 3 pieces that he composed during these 2 semesters, he's backed off to a great extent on the degree of complexity, at least at the surface of the music, and it's kind of opened up space to reveal other layers of depth. One of those pieces, the first of the 3 that I'm talking about, was written for Rob and Trudy, which was a piece for 2 pianos that also included a percussion part that was expertly performed by Colin. And I continue to be completely blown away by everything he does on percussion. Experiences like listening to you play that drum solo on the showcase the other night. It's really impressive. It's to the point it's really staggering, actually, to listen to how good you are. And the other 2 pieces, there was a piece, was an adapted version of a score that Colin had done for his partner Catherine's film, and Roger and Rob asked him to adapt it for a concert, and he made a beautiful piece for that event, and it was done here in this room, actually, during this residency with the film again. And then lastly, a really special and personal piece that Colin wrote after having gotten together with his father, Mark Hinton, to have interviews and dozens of hours of intense interviews about Mark's experience serving in the Vietnam War. And what came out of these meetings is a pretty incredible piece that also reflects what I said about the complexity. He built a sound world or an environment characterized or reflective of the nonlinear nature of memory. And by shedding some of that complexity that existed in his earlier music that I saw when I first met him, he was able to impactfully communicate, a real depth of emotional response that I think all of us felt during that performance. And I just wanted to say to Mark, thank you so very much for your bravery and for your service to our country. And Colin, that was an amazing piece, so congratulations. And one thing that Colin really focused on during his time here was clarity in his notation, and the level of his notation has come up so much, and I'm like really proud of you for that. You really stuck with it and took a lot of care with it. So much care that the piece basically played itself. I mean, and that's a proven fact because he got the music to the performers like 15 minutes before the first rehearsal. But I know that you'll continue to make amazing work, and I know that we'll stay in touch, so I'll just say congratulations and thank you for everything, Colin. It's really, really been a great pleasure.
And what will we hear today?
Oh, God. This
horn and a saxophonist named Yuma Uesaka. This is a piece, like the first minute-ish of a piece I wrote on the latest record.
And it is my pleasure to speak to Alex Kirkpatrick. I still don't know what I'm going to say. Actually, I do. I've been reflecting on his appearance among us and realized that he seems to be many personas at once. And this may be that he is a songwriter, member of a band who plays drums and guitar and sings, an actor in music videos, by day an office worker and someone who keeps the New School for Music solvent, or at least afloat. A truly trustworthy friend to all of his colleagues and to us faculty, very attentive side person in a band, a wonderful voice-forward singer. The work that we did together was, for me, just a process of discovering or encouraging him to discover new ways of making music. I remember Alex, your doubt at writing for instruments. And I thought, well, but you do play so beautifully any instrument that comes to your hands, and you sing so thoughtfully. It's simply a question of translating that act to others that you're just meeting for the first time. And his time here has been that. You meet Alex, and suddenly you're able to make music with him almost instantaneously. And his personality changes, depending on who he's with. So that, to me, is a... and that is an ideal collaborator and thoughtful artist and citizen of the world. What shall we hear?
We're going to hear the last minute of a song called Blue Shell that is off of the album that I recorded under the advisement of Don in my third semester. It features me on guitar, me on drum, me on everything except Ben Murphy on bass.
QED. Thus demonstrated. Okay.
It's covered in spikes and it's spinning around. It comes to me when I'm ahead of the crowd, so I better look back to the trees that I fell. I don't wanna lead in the path of blue shell. It's coming up faster, but I just want silence today.
And next, Lisa Mezzacapa will speak for Pamela Martinez.
Just keep going if I make noises.
No, you can't get me out. Just don't go there, Pamela. I'll use your stage name, and that way you can dissociate teletextile. So I was trying to figure out how to say this. It's kind of a confession. It's awkward. Maybe it's weird, but as your advisor, am I allowed to say that I want to be you when I grow up? You contain multitudes as an artist. And the care and the originality that infuses your work is so completely aligned with your inner compass and how well you know yourself and listen to yourself. I learned so much about that in particular from you these past months working together as you tackled all these ambitious and layered projects, but on your own terms. You play by your own rules. And you have this kind of no-nonsense grace that comes from being very secure in your values, what you care about, and how you want to spend your time on planet Earth. You go about your work with the seeming ease and effortlessness. She seems mellow, right? But I think inside you're always bubbling and churning with all these ideas and environments and situations. You're always incubating patiently until these things are ready to manifest. And I'm literally getting goosebumps thinking about that, about you. Yeah, maybe you take on a little too much sometimes, but who am I to say that's a bad thing? As a truly hybrid composer artist, your works are so fantastically rich and textured, seamlessly weaving movement, video, costumes, visual art, text, performance art, live processing, and lighting into all of the musical elements. Pop music, electronic music, and chamber music sensibilities all meet in really surprising and original ways in everything I've heard you do. Your music is visceral and dreamy, truly original, and yet also really approachable. That is like an impossible combination in my mind. I missed your revival of your Yeti Tea Party piece that you performed. I forget the title, but your first performance of that weird thing is emblazoned in my memory forever, and I've seen a lot, so thank you. You're also a sonic healer, a Reiki practitioner, an accomplished arts administrator, curator, producer, in addition to being a violinist, vocalist, and harpist. And you really show up for your community as a member of the Student Leadership Council, as a very willing collaborator, and also as a sounding board, giving wisdom when it's needed. You brought the art, writing, and music colleagues that you've met at BCFA into your curatorial and performance work, which I think is very, very cool as well. Always connecting. After working with you this semester, as you conceived and began composing the music for your Strings of Life project, and this is an immersive theatrical work that will include and expand the music that you just heard her write for Eclipse Quartet. I'm so excited to see how that develops and where it leads you, because I'm ready to experience the full power that you possess. I know you have a few possible paths ahead of you now. Now that you're graduating, I think whatever's next for you, whether you stay involved in arts administration in your community, or you find a teaching position in academia, or you pursue graduate study, all things you've talked about, I think for you the work will always be the constant, and the soulfulness of your work, and the integrity and authenticity that you always bring to everything you do, no matter where you decide to put your energy. So what are we going to listen to?
We are listening to, prefaced by, I didn't know what to pick, but we're listening to Night Being, which John was my advisor for that, so thank you, John. I loved this ensemble, and I think I chose it because I love the way those moments that were created. So the music is a nice consequence of that.
And now Frank J. O'Terry will speak for Stephen Owens.
I have a lead sheet here rather than a score. I'm going to riff on this a bit. My first encounter with Steve Owens is actually almost parallel to my first encounter with VCFA. And so this is a slightly longer story than the last 5 semesters. It's a story that goes back 9 years. I first came to a residency as an invited guest in 2016 after multiple talks with Carol and Rick. They finally persuaded me to come up and leave New York City. I said, I don't know how to drive. I don't know how to get around here. And they said, well, we'll get you around. We'll give you a good time. And I did a talk, and I was so intrigued by it, I wound up staying for the entire residency, and I wound up coming back every year. They can't get rid of me. I fell in love with the place. But the other thing that happened is I fell in love with Steve Owens as a friend, as a brilliant mind, as somebody who has so many ideas about so many things, and who thinks through everything, I'll say, as a composer. My very first encounter with him was at the Three Penny, which for folks who remember Montpelier, Vermont, and a number of us here do, is this wonderful brew pub in downtown Montpelier. And I was scared going the first time because it's a bit of a trek. It's like, I don't have a car. I don't know how I'm going to get back. Somebody will drive you back, and there are no street lights or anything. But Carol said, I really want you to meet Steve. I want you to talk to Steve, and I think you guys would really get along. And we sat there, and we spent this whole evening talking about Haydn symphonies. Like every one of them. He knows them all. And it was bizarre, and I'm like, and I didn't know, it was like, who is this guy? And I was like, are you a composer? And he sort of sublimated his composer identity at that point. And he talked, I've done some arrangements, I've arranged things for this and that. And I said, well, I'd love for you to come hear my talk at VCFA. He said, yeah, I'd be interested. He didn't show up. And then a year went by, and I said, well, maybe I'll get to talk to Steve again. And I talked to him. There was like a gathering. I said, I'd love for you to come to my talk. You should come to some of the events here. Based on all the things you're talking to me about, it would be really interesting to have you here. He said, yeah, I'll come. He didn't come. But I went that year, the second year, I went to the Bonfire, and that was a chance where I really got to see Steve in his element, in his own home. And he had just started, he hadn't completed it yet, this really, really elaborate, it's as big as Carol and Steve's home. It's like this other home, this like woodshed, this workspace. And he was building it, and I'm terribly afraid of heights. And he's like, you gotta climb up and see this thing. Oh but I did it. I mean, he's wonderfully persuasive, too, and another thing we have in common. And so I went up there and I saw all these tools that he designed himself, and then the farm, all the stuff that he planted that he designed himself. Everything was like a composition. You know, even as far as, you know, even more recently, you know, he made an apple pie that I thought was like a musical masterpiece as a composition. It was like so structured, and it tasted really good. That's the thing. It's like it's got the structure, it gets your brain, and it gets your heart, your soul. So all this time passes. He finally enrolled at VCFA after we were no longer in Vermont, because one of the things about leaving Vermont, I thought, oh damn, now I'm not going to get to hang out with Steve. But he enrolled as a student, and his first compositions, I remember reading through this extremely contrapuntal choral work at the choral workshop, and it was so hard, and we somehow managed to do it, because no matter how hard it was really musical, and the lines, you know, rang out, and they made sense once you got past, wow, this is really densely complicated. And then he wrote a wind quintet, and we started talking about wind band, and then I learned that he had written wind band pieces that had been published, and he wrote pieces for elementary wind band. In fact, I fell in love with one of them so much, I included it in the syllabus for a music history class I teach. It's a really, really excellent piece. And I got another sense of Steve the composer when he wrote a piece for the Trueberry Duo, which is Rob Frankenberry and my wife, Trudy Chan. And so I kind of lived through this process of her rehearsing this utterly impossible piece of music. I heard half of it for like a month because, you know, I only heard one of the piano parts, and I was trying to piece it together in my head somehow. And it's this utterly wild, crazy, but brilliant piece of music. Totally, you know, he combines tradition with this maverick sensibility. I'm going to put you on the spot here and embarrass you, but it's sort of like Charles Ives. You know, the way it's just like, it's so aware of the past, but it's also aware of the future and is bringing us into the future with this music. And this piece is this incredible journey. It's about autism. And if you listen to it, I think it creates a zone of empathy. And we need more pieces of music like this that do this sort of thing. And it's utterly brilliant. The only thing wrong with it is it's in 12-tone equal temperament. So I gave a talk, and here comes the biggie. I gave a talk when we were at Susquehanna, and I gave this sprawling talk about microtonality. And it's the first time I ever repeated one of the presentations I did at VCFA, because there were completely new students at that point, and this was a presentation. I repeated it in part because I wanted Steve to come hear it, and Steve didn't come when we were back in Vermont. So I thought, I'm going to do this again, and I got a little crazy. This thing had 500 slides. It was out of control. And I brought this crazy keyboard that has, like, you know, 205 notes per octave, and did all this stuff, and Steve was there from beginning to end, soaking it all in. And one of the things I talked about, just in passing, I said, yeah, there's this crazy scale, I want you to know about it, called Boland-Pierce. It doesn't have octaves. It's completely like this irrational, insane scale. I don't completely understand it, but there are people doing work in it, you should hear it. Well, it turns out that Steve went on a mission and became this Boland-Pierce expert. He went down the rabbit hole, and we went to visit Carol and Steve last October, and he set up a whole studio in his basement with a keyboard retuned to Boland-Pierce. And I went down there, and it actually inspired me as a composer. Suddenly this role of teacher-student got flipped. You know, he became the teacher. I learned about Boland-Pierce from him. And the piece I played at Comproviser the other night would not have happened if it was not for Steve Owens. And further than that, he is probably the first composer ever in this program to have 4 pieces on a residency that are in 4 different tunings. And one thing I am trying to prove, and I haven't been able to prove it yet, is he wrote this brilliant string quartet, for those of you who were here the other night, in 19-tone equal temperament, a marvelous scale. It's hard to believe, but I can't find any other original string quartet composition in the literature that is in 19-tone equal temperament. I didn't think it was true, but it might be the first ever 19-tone string quartet. So I have one more thing I want to say here, and my phone is doing my little notes here. Yeah, so the sky's the limit. I can't wait to hear what comes out of this. He's talked about combining multiple tunings in the same piece, polymicrotonality. I'm really eager to hear where that's gonna go. It's exciting. This is a lifelong adventure. It better not stop at this graduation. We are staying in touch for the rest of our lives. And what are we gonna listen to?
Well, it goes back to my first semester when I was working with Roger. I wrote a wind quintet called Music from Where the Veil is Thin, inspired by my encounter with ghosts at a 200-year-old church in my hometown of Calais, Vermont. It's the fugue. Of course.
And now an interlude that speaks to us all.
Right one.
romantic setting are so hypnotized by the lovely evening. Some have breathed the warbling of a meadow. Moonlight in the barn. You and I and
We're very good with that. And now the presentation of diplomas by Carol Beatty and Devin Barone, DVB.
The diploma of Colin Hinton will be presented by Mark Hinton, Brenda Hinton, and Catherine Hooper.
I don't know, how do we do this?
Come on up.
Do I stay?
No, you guys stand in the middle, and Colin comes to you.
Oh.
Come get it.
The diploma of Alex Kirkpatrick will be presented by Lynn Kirkpatrick, Randy Kirkpatrick, and Claire Brown.
I don't understand.
Used to work when we had more of a stage.
Yeah. The diploma of Pamela Martinez will be presented by Now Bustamante.
And guitar.
Ah,
Yay.
And the diploma of Stephen Owens will be presented by Carol Beatty.
Already there. What?
Our festivities aren't over yet, but yes. Yeah, I think there's something more. I'll be right with you in a minute.
It was just the end music. Should we move?
So,
See, that we can coordinate, that one we got.
yeah, I really did. But, yeah, a couple of years ago, I had kind of a remarkable experience. I felt an emotion. It inspired me to a fantasy that's 2 years in the making, which I'm realizing right now. And what that fantasy was, is I wanted to play a love song for Carol. And, but I'm not going to say what it is until afterwards because she'll recognize it and I don't want to spoil the surprise. And Michael Bryant is assisting me in this. I had a lot of co-conspirators. That was Robert Johnson, not that Robert Johnson, the one who lived 400 years ago. And just so you know, this is very special to us because that last rising fourth progression, it goes oh so soft, oh so white, oh so sweet is she, oh so sweet is she.
And now for my concluding remarks. Finally. It's true that now for your entire time here, we've been wandering around and have landed here in California and have now, in recent months, endured many surprises in our society. It's interesting when faculty have to give talks, we always access our past and our mentors to hand on whatever information can be useful. And in the process, we discover that their information has changed in its function and sometimes its value. That's unavoidable for humans. So I have made my peace with that. And I have found that sometimes reflecting on the past and what it was like then allows me to see that this is a new world, which then you in turn will reflect on this day in the past and say, wow, that was pretty strange then. In the 50s, Western intellectuals feeling fairly confident, and artists feeling fairly confident that they were grappling with something new, often looked to the East to divest themselves of their Western privilege. And occasionally, they would come up with, they would study people and tell stories that always change in their complexion from one cultural moment to the next. This is a curious story told by my mentor, John Cage, and it's odd to say it today in our time when we are so bent on becoming the greatest thing. Two monks came to a stream. One was Hindu, the other Zen. The Indian began to cross the stream by walking on the surface of the water. The Japanese became excited and called to him to come back. "What's the matter?" the Indian said. The Zen monk said, "That's not the way to cross the stream. Follow me." And he led him to a place where the water was shallow, and they waded across. We find ourselves in that moment. We look for magical solutions, and sometimes there's a meme that is happening that reminds us of something else, and it's confusing, walking on water. Evidently, only one person can do it, and then many. But it is the way we watch out for each other, not only in crossing the stream, but crossing the street and finding our multiple paths together and separately in life. You will always be with us, graduates, as our colleagues and friends are with us, and we will always be with you. Please stay in touch and know that you are very well loved. Thank you.